And so our next speaker, and I have this question in my head, who is New Zealand Batman? Again. Is that you, Abby? Oh, it's all right. Okay, that's cool. So our next speaker is Joe Blakeley. Joe Blakeley is the Executive Director Academic at EIT here in the Hawke's Bay. Joe's also co-chair on the East Coast Hawke's Bay Conservation Board and conservationist and avid tramper. Joe's also a member of the Cape to City advisory group. So welcome, Joe. Come on up, and you've got a limited time frame, unfortunately. My apologies, envious.
No problem. Gosh, how does it? So that's up and hopefully it's intuitive for Joe. Great. That way? That way.
Flick and then see.
Yeah. Okay.
That goes to the next one.
Cool. Kia ora tātou, tēnā koutou katoa. And I will try and keep this speech to a few minutes, because at the very end I've got a video I'd like to show you, which is an unashamedly very bad promotion on our horticulture programs. But I wanted to end with that so that you can actually go away from this conference thinking there are some really positive people in the world who are working with our land, and young people working their land who aren't just on that twit book thing that Ruud's been talking about all conference. So look, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the learning process and just thinking about how we as learners learn, and as we as individuals and even older people learn, just to set the scene. And then I'm just going to talk a wee bit about some of the examples that EIT's been working on with the Cape to City project, why we got involved with the project, and some of the work that's being done in all of our programs across the campus to work for the environment. Because you know, if you're looking at landscape scale projects like the Cape to City project and you want behaviour change, those of us who like science, and there's been so many science sort of stuff in here, the equations and graphs and stuff, well, the one that I really like in education is that if you want behaviour change, you need to get education plus regulation plus incentive. So that's the equation that I try and work with, and I'm just a small component on that when I'm actually working on the education side of it. But education, it's a really important element when we want to actually change behaviour. But one of the things that sort of struck me recently, and maybe you've had something happen for you over the conference when you've learnt something different, something which actually challenged your current paradigm on thinking, and actually when you thought, well, that's new information for me. But sometimes as adult learners, we've actually got more than new information, and we've actually got to knock out some old information because the facts have changed. And I had an example of that when I was in Melbourne recently. I won't go in there because it's actually quite a nasty slide. So just prepare for a nasty slide on the next one too. But I was at the Healesville Sanctuary in Melbourne, and it's a fantastic place where they look at all of their native fauna, really, is where that sanctuary is. It's part of Victoria Zoos. And at the Healesville Sanctuary, they had the enviro educators talk at the platypus enclosure. I love platypus, and so I had to go and listen to them. And as soon as I walked around the enclosure to get in there, you got this big sign saying bubbles, not balloons. And I thought, what the heck are they on about? But, you know, they want bubbles are everywhere, not balloons and stuff. And then they gave us a talk about, and I actually learned that, you know, in Lord Howe Island, 80% of seabirds there, that's the baby seabirds on Lord Howe Island, 80% of them have ingested rubbish, and most of that rubbish has come from the balloons, the little bits of balloons which gets trapped and holds them. And I thought, oh no! I had one of those sort of moments when I thought, I've been to parties, I've used balloons, and I've bought balloons, and we've had a lot of fun with them. And now I've been told I cannot have balloons at parties. But the message that they also gave us, which I thought was really helpful, was no balloons, but okay, bubbles. Bubbles was good. I thought, great, I can have my champagne. But they didn't mean those bubbles. They actually meant that, those machines that blow out bubbles and they have a lot of fun. And more than that, they actually let us experience that you could actually have bubbles while they were talking to us and looking at platypuses and things. We actually also looked at what it felt like to have bubbles around us instead of these balloons. So I just sort of, I felt that was a real aha moment for me, and the learning experience was really good. It was actually just kept on being reinforced by this group about we do sometimes have to change our current paradigm on thinking because there's new information that's coming ahead, and that's sort of happening for us all of the day, and I'm hoping the conference has inspired us to sort of do a bit of change behaviour too. So moving on to the Cape to City project and why EIT's been involved with that. Our missions align, that the project, EIT is about educating, innovating, transforming, innovating stuff. And really, why wouldn't you want to work with a project that's talking about native species thriving where we're living and working and playing? And they really felt that, I won't go into the details of we all know there's 26,000 hectares in the Cape to City project and about 7,000 hectares in the Tane part of that as well. But those two areas, they're a huge part of our EIT community. A lot of our staff, our students, and our related communities, we live and work in those areas. They're important to us and they're important to our whānau. So we certainly wanted to be more fully aligned with that. And so right on campus, we're very lucky, and maybe I'm biased, but I'm fairly sure that EIT has got one of the nicest campuses in the world. New Zealand. But certainly, we do like to have our native species on site, and our gardeners are sort of coming on board like that too. And we've got really happy, friendly staff and stuff. And we're working closely with what's happening in our local biodiversity of the rohi. And it's also nice to celebrate this. So what we did we've decided to work with Cape to City, and we've just this year actually we formalised it. And Ruud talked earlier about how he's working with our teachers of the teachers program. So we thought, well, let's just formalise that and actually build it more directly into the curricula so that for the teachers' programs, they can actually be assessed in that kind of learning, and it's in the context, it's actually what they do when they come to a teaching program at EIT. So we've signed this MOU, and of course what we also did was we had to have cake. So I was very, very pleased that we have a couple of our culinary students in here who were able to give us this beautiful forested log, so we could celebrate the fact that actually we can work together to promote environmental sustainability in what we're doing. So their programs, of course, are patisserie level 5 students, like your first year degree kind of equivalent, and they were able to also use that as an element for their education. Another really common thing which has started been more of a catalyst for what we're doing at EIT by having an involvement with Cape to City, having an MOU signed off to say we're going to really grow our role in environmental sustainability for the rohi, was that we also wanted to get our researchers more fully involved. And it's been great having access to fantastic researchers from Lanka, for example. So Grant came along and gave a talk. Really like this slide. If you look at his hand, just look at the shadow that it's giving. I only just found that the other day, but I thought it was actually brilliant. I said, I'm not sure he knows about that one yet, but yeah. So the predator catches the prey in this one, and it's all about our connections with people. So this slide work. EIT is also working as part of the Cape City. You've got the interagency approach. You've got DOC, and we've got there's Osprey in there as well as this Landcare. So being connected. By working together, mawhira, mapanga, ka oti ai te mahi. Just love that. I think that's really what we're on about with these sorts of projects. So next few slides, I'm going to just talk a bit more about more specific programs. And as Ruud's talked about the Bachelor of Teaching Primary, I thought I'd go to the young people. So the Bachelor of Teaching Early Childhood Education. And he's absolutely right. Children love bugs, or do I have to call them invertebrates? And this is sort of where they're actually building the bug caves, and then they are enjoying the bugs and really more enjoying them, actually getting down into what is in the bark, what's in the larvae, and asking the right questions about their natural world. And what's more fun than throwing bugs on your teacher? So I just thought that sort of captures learning is fun, and learning is in everything that we do. The other kind of quirky kind of area you might not have thought about, that we are also using the environmental context, is in our artwork. So these students, I think they might be some of our degree students, and they've used these nature to create functional objects. And another one here, another example where they've actually used low energy source was their assessment criteria, and this one's been created out of paper and card, but using natural and cellular patterns from nature. Not sure if that's biomimicry, but it was good enough for me to sort of think about, they've thought about the patterns of nature, how are we going to put that into our art and pull that all together. So the next thing, if this works, this is a little, and as I said, it's only about a minute and a half. It is a promotion from our student who's in a horticulture program in Gisborne. But if you capture at the end, and again, just try to, I know you're not going to study horticulture at the EIT, but just listen to Aaron in this one.
Hi, my name's Aidan. I studied at the EIT Tairawhiti, and now I'm working at the Native Garden Nursery in Gisborne. I came to Gisborne, I saw the course running for sustainable horticulture at EIT, and I thought I'd take the opportunity and start my studies. And 6 months later, I had a job in the industry that I wanted to be in, planting the native plants around the East Cape region. The course is amazing. It was completely organic focused, and I had a really big interest in permaculture and a new way of growing food. The small campus here was like studying amongst the family. The garden, the facilities were all beautiful. The lecturers did a really good job of supporting us all. I think horticulture and EIT go hand in hand. The Gisborne campus is perfect. I can't think of anywhere better to study. After working in New Zealand on the farms and in the orchards, doing a lot of hiking around, you see the kai disappearing from the rivers, from the oceans. You think, what's the future going to be like for the kids? If we start doing it now, we can have a real bright future. Horticulture, there's always going to be a job growing food. There's always going to be a job looking after our animals and looking after our water. So you study the environment. It's one of the realest things around. It took me a long time to find what I was passionate about. EIT was an integral part of bringing together all my different experiences from around the place, giving me the confidence, giving me the information, the resources, and the support to start it all rolling. I think you've only got one life, just like a tree. You start growing your roots. If you find your passion, you find what you like, then everything works out.
Cool. So thanks for that. So, it's a privilege to work in education and to see the daily change, the change that education can make to people in lots of communities. There's lots of challenges in front of us, so I'm really pleased to sort of end with Aidan in a positive note that we have future, that, we've got our young people who are in touch with the earth, and who see the future in our landscapes, which can be improved and by our more informed communities. So finally, I'm just going to leave you with our bubbles of learning. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Jo. Here's a little gift for you. Not enough to make a hedge, but we'll get you started. Thank you.